Welcome to the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Sulon Carrick and I'm passionate about inspiring, motivating, supporting and informing women over 50 to embrace this exciting time of life. Health and wellness in mind, body and spirit are the foundations for living well, but there is so much more to a life well lived. Each week, through conversations with my guests, I'll be presenting topics that will help us all to live well and enjoy life. So join me as we discover new ways to become women living well after 50. Are you ready to start living? What are you waiting for? Let's get started. Are you living life your way? That's the tagline on my website. Are you making the most of your life now? Jan Fishler is an author, speaker, and writing coach. Her talks and writing courses inspire and motivate mostly midlife women, but some men too, to manifest their dreams and fulfill their heart's desire, because most need a friendly nudge to accomplish their goals. Jan provides the tools that they need to just write it or just do it. Jan has a bachelor degree in English literature and a master's in education. She's been a scriptwriter, video producer, and radio personality. She's also authored 4 books and has written articles for magazines and journals and newspapers. Jan lives in Northern California, and today we're going to be talking about Don't Stop Now, making the most of the rest of your life. So let's go and join the conversation. Welcome, Jan. It's lovely to have you join me as a guest in conversation on the Women Living Well After 50 podcast today.
Thank you so much, Sue. I'm so happy to be here.
Now, I want to talk about your latest book. You've written several books, but one in particular that I'm very interested in is Don't Stop Now, Making the Most of the Rest of Your Life. And that's something that I'm passionate about, getting that message out to women of midlife and beyond, because we only get one shot, so we have to make the most of it, don't we?
Yes, we absolutely do. And I was at a turning point in my life, and it was time to write a book like this to help myself and others.
Yeah. So let's dive into that. What actually prompted you to write the book?
My life had taken a lot of I have to start with, it was pretty good. My life had been pretty good. I went to college, I got married, I had a good job, I loved my career, I had a couple of kids, and everything was fine until I think it started shortly after I turned 50, is when my parents got sick, and they lived across the country from me, so it was not easy to get there to help them. And so that was very stressful because it was a sudden illness for both of them and totally unexpected. And so that started it. And then shortly after that, my daughter ended up feeling sick all the time. She was 15. And, I take her to doctors and there was nothing wrong. And I go, there's definitely something wrong. We didn't know what it was. All the tests came back. She's fine. And it turned out she had Lyme disease, but it took 5 years to get a diagnosis. So meanwhile, that was very stressful. And around the same time, my husband, who was a Vietnam combat vet, he started falling apart. Like his joints started disintegrating, and he'd been exposed to Agent Orange. And so he had these health issues that were associated with that. So meanwhile, my career, I was a video writer, producer, and I always had these great jobs. I'd meet new people, travel, and all of a sudden I had to say no to any of that. And so I think by the time it ended, I was like 60 going, now what? I forgot. I should tell you this little piece too. So I have a son. And at that time, I had said to him at one point, if you need a mom, these are some friends of mine you can call, because I am just completely buried. So he went off to college. He had a free ride to the University of California, any school he wanted. He lasted a month, called me up. Mom, this isn't for me. I go, okay, because, I believe everyone should follow their passion, and I'm not going to push you into something you don't want to do. And he came home and said, I'm going to follow my passion, which is magic. So I had no work. I just jumped in and I said, okay, well, your sister and your dad are okay enough, and let me help you. So I started booking gigs for him, and that was great. But eventually, he met a girlfriend and she took over my job, which is really good. Literally, I didn't know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
It was just like, are you kidding me? And I'm not a knitter or crocheter. Let's make a quilt.
Yeah.
I like business. So.
Yeah. And that can be very distressing, actually, because I can definitely identify with everything you've talked about. We've got similar backgrounds. I lost my parents early. My husband's a Vietnam vet, so he has issues as well. My son, went down the same sort of path, not with magic, but didn't sort of follow the path I thought he would. And then I retired early to help look after my in-laws and things like that. And then I thought, what am I doing? And I felt absolutely lost. I didn't know what direction to take. And I think that's the distressing part, because you think, I've been there for everybody else doing all these things. My life was full. And now what am I going to do? I've lost the identity of who I am.
Right. Yeah. And interestingly enough, the person I usually complain to is my daughter, because having been sick for so long, not only has she read a million self-help books, but she's really got insight, So she said to me, well, why don't you go to a Vipassana retreat? Do they have Vipassana where you are? It's like silent meditation for 10 days.
Oh, yes, I think they do. I know they
Something like
have,
that.
yeah, something similar.
Yeah. So I did that. And everyone I knew who knew me said, you're going to sit and not talk. You're going to sit still, and not talk. Well, I'm going to do my best and try it. Because I figured if I went and I contemplated and just asked for guidance, maybe I would get insight into what's next. And honestly, I was hoping for this epiphany where I would just walk out of the retreat going, oh, thank you. I know my mission. That I didn't.
No.
All I knew was, okay, just keep meditating and ask for guidance. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to ask for a sign, something, about what to do next. So.
Well, I think that would have been, I would have found that difficult. I'm not very good at meditation because, it is hard to sit still and be quiet. But I think we do need that time just to step back sometimes, and we might not get the answers, but at least we're giving ourselves a moment in time to actually reflect and to just focus on ourselves. So I think that even though you didn't have that epiphany, you must have felt wonderful when you left there, at a form of peace, I suppose.
I did. It calmed me down. But then I did ask for signs, and I did find one. I was wasting time on, I think, Pinterest or Facebook, just that was my new job, just looking at what other people were doing. And I saw this infographic that was a life planning wheel. It looks like a pie, a big pie with all the sections.
Yes.
And I was looking at that, and it made me feel so much better because as I looked at each section of the pie, I went, oh, well, I'm pretty good at family. Okay. Career, did that. Health, I'm active. I don't have any health issues. And I'm going through the wheel, and at the end of it, I went, okay, well, my college guidance counselor would be very pleased with my ability, but there were pieces missing. And I thought, I want to write a book, because this would be the wheel, only I want to update it for women my age.
Yeah, and I've used that technique as well, and it's really very helpful, but sometimes it isn't complete, the infographics I've seen. So that's what actually leads me into my next question, because you talk about 8 areas in the book about, I suppose, working through the process of what's next and using this wheel of life, for want of a better word. So yes, what sort of areas have you covered in the book?
Let's see, let me see if I can recite them without looking.
Oh, no, that's okay.
We did physical health, emotional well-being, finance, relationships, appearance, behaviors. That was one of my favorites. learning something new, giving back. I missed one.
No, I think you got them all because I've got them written down. Yeah, very good. And what I thought was great was the giving back part. There were a couple of things that were different in there. I think the financial aspect's very important, the behaviours and the appearance as well, because I think that, and especially with COVID, you know, and I'm not saying that you have to get out there with a full makeup on all the time, but it's amazing how if you feel that you look good, I think you feel much more confident within yourself, don't you? And I think it's the inside as well as the outside appearance that's important.
Well, my co-author, it turns out she's my neighbor. She edited my memoir, and we've been friends forever. And I chose to edit the book or work on the book with her because I didn't want to do this work alone. Writing is so solitary. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to do it with someone? And coincidentally, she had an idea for a book too. And so mine was like, okay, let's make life as good as it can be. And hers was, let's interview a bunch of women who have just done extraordinary things that can motivate us. And I went, I'm just trying to get through the day. And like she's looking at something more grand. But we had a really good time, but her shtick really is appearance. She's a total fashionista. I'm not. Everything. And so she called a local dermatologist, and who I guess is her dermatologist, and he gave us such great advice, for people who can just go to your not the grocery store, but the dime store to buy things that are over the counter that can help with skin. And he talks all about making sure you get an annual checkup, have your moles looked at. So it's appearance, but it's also health. It's all about health as well. And the things that we tend to neglect because we don't, oh, we're fine. Or that mole, it's fine. It's not skin cancer. So he really pretty much gave us that whole chapter, which was amazing.
And that's what I like about the book. It's quite holistic. You're covering your health, you're covering all the areas in our life. And I think that's there's something for everyone there, that even if we can say, well, for example, for me, I'm a group fitness instructor and personal trainer. So health is not really a big deal for me. I do have family history, so I have to keep on top of that. But there's other things like perhaps my behavior or my, other areas in the book that would be very relevant to what I need to learn more about. So I think it's quite good that you've covered all those different areas of our life.
Well, we realized that not everyone needed all the information. So the beginning of each chapter has a little assessment. So you can see where you're at, and I'm like you, I've been exercising since I was 20 years old. I don't know what my life would be like if I wasn't moving around and at least walking, hiking, lifting weights. That's just me.
Yeah.
But so many people have issues with that. So I could skip that one and I could skip some others, but the finance one was important to me because we had not put our trust together yet. We didn't have a will that was current. And so I'm writing this book going, oh my gosh, I better take care of this myself.
Yes.
And at the same time, a friend of mine, her husband passed away. He was also a Vietnam vet. And she was worried because the benefits that she had, she really needed, and they disappear, when your spouse dies. And so she said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm short of cash until I get the life insurance, blah, blah, blah. And I said, if he's typical, he's left some money here somewhere. And she said, well, there is this strong box in the back of the closet. And I said, you should open it. She goes, I don't think I can. I go, I'm coming over. You're opening it. She opened it and there was $20,000 in cash.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so it was just what she needed to get through this period and get reorganized. And of course they never talked about it, but these kinds of things, like, are so many women just, they delegate financial everything to their spouse. And if their spouse dies, they don't even know where the safety deposit box is, or they don't know what bills need to be paid. They haven't done any of that.
No, and that's so important. I mean, you can divide up the responsibilities, I suppose, in a relationship, which is good, but you do both need to know what's going on, because if you do find yourself in that situation, you're trying to cope with grieving, but also, you've got to keep moving through that, and there's bills still to be paid and that sort of thing. So I really love the 8 areas that you focused on in that. Now, tell me, what was it like collaborating with your friend? Because is she sort of a different personality to you, or are you similar, or what's it like writing with someone?
Well, we're really a good pair, because I'm the big picture person. I'm big. I'm the one who comes up with all the structure. And she is very detail oriented. So right. I could write a slapdash first draft, get it all together, and then she would finesse everything. So we were a great team. You were
a great team.
We're very like-minded when it comes to, politics and lifestyle. We both like wine, so we made sure we, would work, and then we go have our glass of wine.
Well, actually, it would have been a lovely experience for you both too, just from a friendship point of view. So it was good that you did work off each other with your different strengths and so forth. So, yeah. And you said that you interviewed women. Who were some of the women were there some that stood out more than others in the interview, or?
There was one woman who I just loved. She had a great story. I'm trying to remember her name. We made a feature. Judy Townsend was her name. And she was working in the .com industry when things started going south. And her hobby was very distressing to her mother. She collected mannequins. She had started at a yard sale where she found a few mannequins, and then a few mannequins led to more mannequins, and she became obsessed with mannequins. And at one point they lined her driveway of her house. No, it was bad. And but then when the .com thing happened and she lost her job, she turned this into a business called Mannequin Madness. And so then she bought a warehouse. She put all her mannequins in the warehouse, and she said, not only do I have full mannequins' heads, she's got hands, feet, and she rents them out to. It's a very lucrative business. It's better than the money she made during the .com era.
Wow. And you wouldn't think that, would you? But there you go. An obsession or a collecting something can also turn into a business for you if the opportunity comes along.
But her parents were so funny because, having their daughter be college educated, and I guess it was a really big deal. She was the first one in all their family. And so the fact that she would go and sell mannequins to make a living was just horrifying to her mother. She said, well, when she saw how much money I could make, she said she got over it pretty quickly.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. But it must have been good for you to meet these women and hear their stories and do you have any others that stand out for you?
There were women that we interviewed that were professionals in their field. And so we did interview a woman who was a psychologist from India, and I will butcher her name, so I'm not even going to try.
No, that's okay.
She was fascinating because most of her clients were older people, 50 plus, who came to America from India to be with their kids who had moved here. And so they came here to live with their children, and they were very disenfranchised, and, different culture, new language, different food. And so she was talking about how stressful it was and how building a new community in a foreign country can be. And I thought that was just so fascinating that, and she said what they tend to do is try to go to school. And so she would have her clients try to take a class together, learn English together so that they feel so bad about it
and isolated, and that's such a lovely idea, isn't it? She must have felt quite rewarded with doing that sort of work to help people, because it would be a culture shock coming to the US from India and or any other culture, really. Yeah.
You don't know anyone, and now you're beholding to your children. It's like the tables are reversed.
That's right. Yeah.
They've already adapted and they're well on their way and all acclimated, and here you are,
right,
like,
having to start again in a new place. So
that's very stressful.
So with writing the book, how did that change your life? Because it would have probably given you pause to look at your own life as well, working through the 8 areas and also meeting these women and other people that you interviewed. So how did that change your life?
One thing I realized was how much I like speaking. Yeah, I remembered when I was going through this, we were talking about career and work and, should that be a chapter? And I said, I don't know about that. Like, it's so big. I think it's a separate book completely, but it's important. And I was thinking, well, how can I give back? I didn't really need to earn a lot of money. I'd like to have some mad money, but that part wasn't as important to me as feeling like I was useful. And I was thinking, what were my best jobs? What did I do that I really loved, whether I got paid or not? And then I remembered at one point, right before I got pregnant with my daughter, I had gone to an audition for speakers, and they picked me. And I was so excited about this, and I was going to get training and I was going to be able to travel. And I thought, oh, this is great. My husband was fine with me being on the road. He knew that about me. And then I went to the first training session and I wasn't feeling so good. And I came home and took a pregnancy test. And I went, I don't think now's the time to launch this career. It's probably the timing's bad. So I realized I really want to speak. I want to talk to women about this book, and I want to encourage women to take risks, do what they love, get out there and have fun, and not feel like age is a number. It doesn't really matter.
No,
and,
I totally agree with that. I'll be coming up to 64 in a couple of weeks, but I can't compute with that because I don't identify with a number. I just try to get out there and make the best of the life. And that's why I started the podcast and doing other things after 60, where, you just go for it, I suppose. So I did want to talk to you about something, because you have some courses that you take as well. And I know that you've got one currently, which is your memoir, Just Write It. So how important do you think it is for us to write our memoirs?
I think it's great. I mean, this started after I wrote a memoir when I found out, here's my memoir.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I wrote this in the early, 2003, I think was when it was published. And I searched for my birth mother, and it was all about growing up adopted, not knowing who I was, and, trying to learn something. And this was before the internet was really what it is, before 23andMe. And it answered, and I got answers. I got half of it. I got half the answers. I could not find my birth father's family at all. She lied on the birth certificate. I didn't have a name. However, during the pandemic, I was sitting at my daughter's kitchen, and I got a notice from 23andMe, the DNA site, and they said, you have a new relative. And it turned out it was almost a direct link to my birth father.
Wow.
I got a first cousin who happened to be a geneticist. And the next day he said, okay, well, I've looked up everything, and I know who your father is, and I'm going to have your sister call you. So
wow.
I was one of 8 on my mother's side. These are all half siblings. And then now I have 4 more.
Wow. That's wonderful.
So yeah, I feel very strongly about writing your story, knowing your family story. To me, I didn't care what these people did, who they were. I just wanted to know. I just wanted to know.
No, and I think that's important. I've just been talking to a cousin there's not many of us left in my family, and she's now the eldest in our family, and my parents died in their mid-60s, and I often think I wish I'd asked them more about their life. And I rely on this cousin she's 80, and she gives me information, and she even sent me some letters that my grandmother had written to my mum when she had my brother, and all these beautiful things. But I think it gives you a sense of being when you know what your past is, and I just regret, though, that I didn't ask them certain questions like, where did they meet? What did they do? And I think that for me, I've thought about not writing my memoir, but at least telling my children something about my history, so that in the future, when they might be interested, it's usually when later in life you get interested, but they'll know, a few things about their mum that, isn't just being their mum sort of thing. So right. I think it's important, and you have a course about doing how you start with that, do you? Because that's what I would find difficult, the actual where do you start?
Right. I decided one of my past lives, I was a course developer and trainer. And so I developed a course, and then I have a business coach who's been helping me with social media marketing, which just not my thing.
No.
And it's no one's thing, right? If you're over than 30, it's like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's been helping me with that. So I have 13 people in this course, and it's on Zoom, and they're all across the country, which I love. So anyone who speaks English could take the next one. I'll probably do it in January. I haven't set a date, but I think after the holidays, I'd like to get the word out before, because I'm thinking holidays, people get together with family they don't usually see, and you can brainstorm and pick their brain and talk about it.
Great idea.
And then come back.
Yeah. Well, what I'll be doing is putting all your links in the show notes anyway, Jan, so that people can contact you and perhaps subscribe to, so they can, get a heads up when the courses are on and that sort of thing. So, but that sounds fascinating. I really love that idea as well. Now we're sort of coming towards the end, but I just wondered if you had anything you could share with our listeners.
I have two things I want to share.
Okay.
A lot of women forget that we have value and worth. We just forget. We nurture everybody else. We take care of everyone but ourselves. And even when we take care of ourselves, we minimize our accomplishments. And so I've been suggesting to any time I speak that women do this. And I want you to just get out a piece of paper and start writing down every single thing you've ever done. And I mean everything. So you learn to talk, you learn to walk, you learn to speak politely, you learn to ride a bicycle, you learn to run. I start with that, and then keep adding to this list every day and see how big it grows. If you journal, or if you just jot it down, keep like your grocery list, just keep adding. Oh, and I did this and I did that. It doesn't have to be anything magnanimous, because the time you were really kind to that kid in grammar school who everybody teased, think about who you really are and all the things you've done. I just think that is the best thing we can do, because when you look at, I did this in a workshop, I learned this technique in a workshop, and then people were sharing their lists. And as you share these lists with other people, you go, oh, I could add that to mine. Yeah. Oh, I did that too. You can't believe how long that list can be. So it's just a fun thing to do.
Well, it's also good. And it's actually, we are so alike, because this week I do a Monday, what I call micro Mondays on the podcast, which are little short episodes. And this week it was all about self-worth and celebrating your successes. And I think that we tend to downplay the things we do in our life. And I mean, I wasn't actually talking about drilling down as far as you did there, but that's a great idea. And we focus so much on the negative things, or that negative voice in our head telling us all the time that we're not good enough, that we do need to write those lists and acknowledge what we do well and what we're proud of. And so that's great. That sort of makes me feel validated in what I was talking about this week as well.
I know. I have a friend. We grew up together. I went to preschool with her. She lives in the Midwest and I'm on California. But we talk every once in a while. And I said, "So what's been going on?" She said, "After 50 years, I finally reached my goal weight on Weight Watchers."
Oh, fantastic.
She's been doing Weight Watchers since she was 20 years old. And
Oh,
finally,
wow.
I mean, I didn't know what to say.
No.
Talk about determination.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to share, this is from our book. And I usually, it comes in a little card like this. And I just want to read it because I want to it's a really good message. So after you do the book, this is the very last chapter, we say, "We hereby give you official permission to let go of any guilt and residual pain you've been carrying over something you did that was unconscious, rude, harmful, hurtful, illegal, stupid, or otherwise bad. You are formally absolved of this sin. No need to murmur a Hail Mary or act of contrition. No attendance at a Yom Kippur or Ramadan service required. It's simply time to make peace with the past and let whatever it is go once and for all."
Oh, perfect. Yes, that is so spot on and such great advice, isn't it? Because, you know, we just hold on to those things and it just holds us back, doesn't it? So being able to let go and let go of that guilt and absolve ourselves, that's a fabulous idea. I'm really excited about the book, and I haven't actually read it, but I'm definitely, after this conversation, getting a copy and reading it because it just sounds exactly what women of midlife need, that's for sure. Now, before we go, you may have answered that then in the question, but I'll ask it anyway. It's a question that I always ask each of my guests, and that is, what does being a woman living well after 50 mean to you?
Well, it means, first of all, being yourself. You know, one thing I learned, I turned 72 this year.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And one thing I learned was age is definitely an attitude and you just keep moving forward. But I'm myself. I mean, I try not to cause any harm. You know, I don't make waves. I try to be very thoughtful to others, but it's important that I speak my truth and that I say yes when I mean yes and no when I mean no. And just that one simple rule has made life so much easier for me.
Well, I am actually inspired because not that age doesn't matter, but when you said then, 72, I would have said no. I was even thinking to myself, oh, I wonder if she's after 50, should I put that on the end? But, you know, you look absolutely great. And I think it's because of the philosophy that you live by. That must be your secret, surely. And also, I think, because you are inspiring me as we talk, and I could talk to you for hours. But I think what I've taken from talking to you today, and what I believe too, is you do have to keep active. You've got, in mind, body and spirit, you've got to live your life. And I think that once you find your place, after you've been all these other things, the career, the mother, the partner, everything else, once you find you and you start living your truth, as you said, I just think you just start living, don't you? And you know, it's just so inspiring what you've done. And I love all the ideas that, you know, in the book, where you've got the assessment at the beginning of it and that little card at the end. It's just been wonderful chatting to you today, Jan.
I'm so glad you had me on your podcast. I'm really excited about it, and I can't wait to see it when it's all done.
Yeah. Well, what I will do is, as I said, I will put all your links into the show notes so that everyone can get in touch with you and definitely buy your book. I presume that's on places like Amazon and things like that. Yeah,
it's on Amazon.
Okay, that's great. And there's also a Don't Stop Now website, I think, as well. So I'll put all of that there. But it's just been wonderful having you with me today, chatting about life. And you've, as I said, you've certainly inspired me with what we've been talking about today. So thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure. It's just been wonderful. So thank you so much, Sue. I hope we have a chance to talk again.
I'm sure we will, because I would like to actually talk more about the courses that you've done. So, you know, we will have another interview for sure. And until then, with the listeners, thanks for joining us today. It's always lovely to have you here with us. And I hope that you take some gems away from what Jan's talked about today, because she's certainly given us some inspiring ideas that we can follow. And I'd love you to share the podcast interview with a friend, because I know that they would definitely benefit as well. So until next time, remember, live well, enjoy life, and most of all, start living life your way. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.